know I've told this before, but a little young guy that was in Iceville, North Carolina when the storm hit, that got his license 2 days before the storm, and he had an HT, and the only way he could find his way to get out of Iceville and find gas was the repeater up on the mountain there. And I got to talk to him on the interstate here, headed south, going to Macon to stay with his folks. And I thought that was really interesting, that how much it helped him, and he only had his license 2 days. This is KJ4JXB.
Good deal. I've heard that story, Larry, about the kid with the radio. That's a good story. That's a great story. All right, let's see. K0VD was in and out. KF4FYX was in and out. KI4QVX. How about you, Tim? Hello, Hank, and everybody on the net. I had an interest when I talked to a guy in Japan with all these band openings, and it was kind of a language barrier. I mean, it wasn't, great communication, but he was telling me about Jimmy Carter. I don't know if he had met him before or what, but he was real ecstatic, that I was from Georgia, telling me what a great president he was, and he was an older gentleman, and I just kind of felt, that was kind of neat, all the information he was telling me, and he had like little memento items, I guess, that, from Jimmy Carter's presidential campaign, I guess, 1980, so that's going back in time, a little retro there. But yeah, the bands have been opening great. Worked Ireland today. That was pretty neat, Hank. And we've been doing a rag chew on 28.420. David got going, WI4L. So been enjoying that. So this is KI4QVX back over to Net Control. Good deal, Tim. Yeah, that's interesting. The people you always meet, you never know who you'll meet. All right, let's see. KO4ZYG was in and out. That takes us down to Chris, KQ4RLA. How about you, sir?
Well, this is kind of funny. I was on Echolink messing around, and I was looking up repeaters, and I saw one that said Wexford, Pennsylvania. So I got on there, just going to see, like, listen, and then this guy recognizes me on Echolink, and he's got this strange British accent, and come to find out it wasn't Pennsylvania, United States, it was the UK. And we had a little conversation. It was pretty interesting. So I think that was that was kind of a shocker to me, I guess. Back to Net.
Yeah, those are still good. That's a good contact. All right, let's move on down to KO4CDA. Claude, what about you, sir?
KO4CDA. Hank, I really can't pin anybody down. I've talked to so many interesting people, either on the radio or in person or what have you. So there's so many that do so many things. You, for instance, and Emmett and some of the other guys, Bert, that keep all this stuff going. You pin somebody down.
Well, you've had your life has been around radio most of your life anyway, so you've probably talked to a lot of interesting folks. All right, that brings us down to AB4CB. Annette, what about you?
This is AB4CB. Good evening, Hank. Well, I know I've told this story before, but what really stands out in my mind is the first day that we met you and David and Claude and Larry and a lot of of other people, and Eric and some of the others up at Fort Mountain, the very first time that we ever were introduced into ham radio, Chris and I had been wanting to get into it for many years. We just didn't know how to start. We did a lot of research on the internet, but it was just extremely overwhelming. At that time, we just didn't have a lot of money and didn't know which radio to get and didn't want to buy something that was wrong. And it was almost like a divine appointment from God that we were able to talk to y'all up there. And all of you have really enriched our lives. We made some good friends, and we have equipment now. We're being trained in what to do in case of an emergency, and we're Skywarn spotters, and we're having lunch with the Skywarn guys and gals up in Chattanooga now. And this entire hobby has greatly enriched our lives, and it all comes back to that very first time that we were going on a hike up at Fort Mountain and saw all of you up there. So we consider ourselves very blessed, and that's just about it. Back to Ned.
Well, good deal. That's a great story. That is a great story. And I knew when we met y'all, you had that, both you and Chris both had that, hey, we're serious about this kind of look in your eye. This was not something, this wasn't just hey, we just thought this looked cool. Y'all were serious. All right, let's see. Alan was in and out. Let's see if there's anybody else out there that wants to check in to the Dalton Amateur Radio Club Net. This is K4HYJ taking check-ins. And let's go ahead and pause and see if we have any Echo Link stations. Any Echo Link stations want to check in, please come now.
KQ4PDF. Hey guys, Logan here in Eton. I'm going to check in and out real fast. Just heard you guys on here and wanted to get my name back on them. Thanks for doing it. We'll catch you later.
W4DRC. This is KQ4AUZ, Cecil and Chatsworth.
This is Kilo 4 Alpha Zulu Mike, Eric and Varnell.
W4DRC Repeater.
Good evening.
This is KO4BWN, Kilo Oscar 4 Bravo Whiskey November, at Nackworth.
This is KM4WTH, Kilo Mike 4, Whiskey Tango Hotel, Vernon, Southeast Woodfield. Check me in and out, please.
This is WI4L, Whiskey India 4 Lima, David in Southeast Whitfield County.
All right, we had a big group there. Let's see. Logan was on Echo Link, and he is in and out. KQ4AUZ, K4AZM, KO4BWN, KM4WTH was in and out. And David, WI4L, that's a good group there. Let's go back up here to KQ4AUZ. Cecil, who's an interesting person you've met on ham radio, or an interesting person you've met because of ham radio?
Okay, thanks, Hank. KQ4AUZ, this is Cecil. I really appreciate your questions, and I had an experience when I was about 14 years old with James Jordan, and James sort of put me where I am today. He got me interested in ham radio, and he's been a mentor all the way through the years. I just really appreciate what he has done, and I really enjoyed doing the radio thing. It's worked out really well for me, and I appreciate what you're doing as far as keeping the net, doing the net tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you. Back to Ned.
Thanks, Cecil. Yeah, there's a lot of local folks here that have been instrumental in folks getting into the hobby. That's part of my story, too. Let's see. Let's move on down to K4AZM. Eric, how about you, sir?
K4AZM. Well, I'm going to talk about one that I made this week. Call sign was N8KMR. A little girl named Kaylee. She's 9 years old. I looked her up after the contact, and I was shocked. She's got listed 22 relatives, going back to cousins, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, mom, dad, all of them general or higher. And it was just really neat, because I'm telling you, she was working the pile up and handling it well. So I'll leave you with that one. K4AZM, back to net.
I'll editorialize there. I had talked, when you sent me that the other day, I had talked to her at some point. I looked up that call sign with her and her doing a park activation earlier this year, and it makes me think of this would have been before COVID. Talked to a young lady named Grace. There was Hannah, Grace, I think, and Faith were their names. That were all general class operators, all under the age of 12, and they were with their father at the Dry Tortugas doing a park activation, and they were so professional and were just knocking it out, and I was asking them all kinds of questions, and they were very conversant in their setup, what worked, what didn't work. And the youngest girl was also quite fascinated about the turtles where she was. So that was, and her father to have their father to have the patience and wherewithal to have them all licenses. The mother has a license too, but his name was Jim, and they're all licensed, and what a family. And they didn't have a problem camping in terrible conditions, so they could do this park activation. So great group of folks. It's interesting who you meet. All right, let's move on down the list to KO4BWN. Ed, what about you, sir?
BL141.3. Outside the temperature, 55 degrees.
KO4BWN, Hank, this is a great question to think about, because I'm sitting there kind of scrolling through my logbook, and I'll take a lot of the contacts that I've had and import them into a map, a website that puts it on a map, and I mean, some of the ones that stand out, I'm blanking on a conversation. Well, first of all, it's hard to think of anybody any more interesting and prevalent in our lives now than Cecil. But, you know, if you're lowering the bar a little bit and you're trying to think about somebody that, you know, that might be almost good, it's tough. But I mean, I came up with a few contacts. Some of these are FTAs. Well, I've had two in in Antarctica. One last year and one just a couple of months ago. And then I've had, let me reset. And then I've had one in Yemen, and I actually got a card from that guy. And that was also FTA, so it wasn't a conversation. But I know Yemen's one of the top 5 or top 3 most desired DX stations. We were actually talking about that on the club Zoom call earlier, especially about North Korea. And then another one that was kind of interesting to me was a Russian icebreaker that was doing research like right up around the North Pole, and the grid square, I've got it mapped out on one of these map pages I was telling you about. So that one's certainly the furthest north contact I've ever had. But anyway, it's just interesting. I've had to refamiliarize myself with geometry, or no, not geometry, geography. Thank you very much. So anyway, that's my ramble for the evening, and hope y'all have a great week coming up. KO4BWN, back to you, Hank.
W4DRC Repeater.
Good evening.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, looking back through your contacts sometimes, something I used to do a lot was just to look back through and look at the mileage, the short path mileage between my QTH and some of these, and just wow, and think what pretty basic, humble kind of conditions that I had. And two, it doesn't, and just that's one thing about shortwave. You don't need a whole lot. The 100 watts in a wire, so to speak. And you're like me, you've done some stuff portable where you threw something out a window and it shouldn't have worked, or I remember hanging off a rock one time and throwing a wire down, hanging off and blowing in the wind, and thought this is never going to go anywhere, and making it across to Europe. So yeah, it's amazing. Let's see, KM4 WTH is in and out. We're down to David. I know David's going to have an interesting story or two. WI4L, go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Hank, and thanks for calling the net. I'm actually doing a YouTube video, 17 minutes in, with all these comments. I missed a little bit in the beginning, but, I don't know. And if I go back to what I heard today as the most interesting contact, I made contact with Dalton, Ohio on the M4BZJ repeater, which you can see this on my video, which, it's just the same actual location than this repeater is, not too far away. And made contact with the guy up there. I can't remember his call, but it worked. And I was downtown Chatsworth, no special antennas or anything. Made contact with Dayton, Ohio. And I guess second to that, if I started with that first, would be the International Space Station. Made contact with the commander on the space station. And next to that, probably Ronnie Millsap. Ronnie Millsap was a ham, or is a ham. So made contact with him too. I go on and on, but good subject. Thanks for calling the net, Hank. And like I said, this is going to be on YouTube, and hopefully some people will see, okay, wow, we really do. We can make these kind of contacts on ham radio. WI4L, back to net control.
Thanks, David. If I'd known I'd been on YouTube, I'd have combed my hair. Okay, thanks for the good info. That is neat. I will go ahead and break here, and we'll take some more check-ins. But let me jump in and talk about a few interesting contacts. Of course, I've talked about kind of like Cecil. Hope Duncan got me involved when I was a kid. I was sitting in his lap, and he was doing slow scan television, and I was amazed with all the QSL cards all over his shack walls and the places that he would talk to with what seemed like almost nothing, Of course, this is well before the days of the internet, so that was extremely fascinating to me. But over the years, I've had some great contacts, and just yesterday during the SET, KN4KBL was calling the Simplex Net for our two counties here, and as we were closing things out, we had a couple of late check-ins, and KD4 YDC checked in from Fayetteville, and I thought, no, wait a minute. I was like, we're not on a repeater, we're Simplex. He's like, well, I was at the Fayetteville repeater site, and he goes 535 is one of our remote stays on. He goes, I heard you guys talking. He was clear as a bell. He goes, I'm on 5 watts. He goes, I've got a great antenna. So he was talking from Fayetteville up here to Whitfield County, and just gangbusters. So it's amazing. It's amazing what you can do. All right, that's the end of our list. Let's see if there's anybody else out there that wants to check into the Dalton Amateur Radio Club net. This is K4HYJ, Net Control. Anybody, anywhere, please call now.
This is KM4HSU, Kilo Mike 4, Hotel Sierra, Uniform, Gerald and Ranger.
This is N4ATO, November 4, Alpha Tango Oscar, Gary and Dalton. If you'll check me in and out, Hank.
All right, we picked up Gerald and Ranger, KM4HSU, and N4ATO, and you can secure at your discretion. Gerald, what's the most interesting contact you've made on ham radio, or who's the most interesting person you've met through ham radio?
That's a good question. As far as meeting folks, I guess, well, everybody talks about David, but, I guess he's one that helped me break open and feel more comfortable about being on the radio about 6-7 years ago. Oh, well, I can't believe that. But anyway, getting into HF, news, like I said a couple weeks ago, I got my first card. Still working on the radio, trying to figure that out. But yeah, it's just amazing. Just listening to HF. I was listening to California, Canada, all over the place. You guys know. But it's amazing what you can pick up and hearing things. I even heard Australia. I was thinking, how in the world am I hearing Australia? But anyway, even I think it was Alaska, Rome, Italy, Germany, and coming in so clear as a bell. And I guess it's just, like you guys always say, it just got to be the right time and right place. And that's about it for me. Back to Net Control.
W4DRC Repeater.
Good evening.
Well, good deal, Gerald. That's a good stuff. Yep, I know David's helped a lot of folks, and we're lucky that he's still around helping folks. Some of those fellows that have been in the club that have been instrumental have moved on, so to speak, silent key. So thankful to have the folks that we have still around. Anybody else want to check in to the Dalton Amateur Radio Club? It's K4HYJ. We're still taking check-ins. Anybody, anywhere, please call now. All right, nothing heard. We had a good group. We had 18 check-ins tonight. 18 check-ins. Good group of folks. on Echo Link and on the repeater. So good group, good stories, good stories. And I was just thinking a good topic coming up for somebody else here. We're getting closer to as we get close to Thanksgiving. A good topic's going to be maybe who has helped you the most in ham radio, or who do you think about, who are you thankful for, let's say, in ham radio that helped you out. So as everybody has talked, I go back and think about all the people that have given me advice. Even the advice that wasn't so good helped in one way or the other, because I ended up learning what not to do. But two, all of the help with just encouragement when something was hard, or somebody being able to explain something and making something that was hard easy. And that goes, you never forget those folks. You never forget those people along the way. So anyway, that'll be a good topic for somebody else here closer to Thanksgiving. So anyway, that's all I've got. Does anybody else have anything before we close? All right, nothing heard. Like I said, we had 18 check-ins. Thank everybody for stopping by tonight, and thanks for all the good stories. This is K4HYJ, Net Control. I'll turn the repeater back over to normal amateur radio use. 73. Everybody have a good week.
Temperature inside at 62 degrees.